Greetings and salutations. This is Abe Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we're going to ask an awful lot of questions. You can also become a bitter pill at patreon.com/The Bitter Truth. And for the mere price of not even a black coffee, you can make a difference in this world, damn it. Today we have a distinguished guest, former campaign manager, activist, been around, and he's not even 25 yet. Are you 25 yet?
I'm 25.
You're 25 yet. Okay. Well, God damn it. So I met you like when you're 23.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Time's moving by.
Time is moving by. You're telling me. I'm about to eat cat food. But in all seriousness, though, Ryan Simpson is a friend of the show. He has little behind the scenes. He has helped me get many guests that have been on this show of all stripes. So to say that this man is open-minded while hanging on to his own ideals is an understatement. Ryan, how the hell are you?
I'm great.
Good, man. Good. So now you're doing other stuff. So you're no longer a libertarian. Is that
I'm
correct?
an independent.
You're an independent in the independent sense of the word, right?
Yeah, completely independent. Big I. Texas secession. Or not Texas secession as in I want us to secede, because I think the answer is actually working with the government. Right. But that Texas secessionist attitude of I want to do my own thing.
Hey, ain't gonna be me getting arrested. You say you do you, man. But what led to that? Because obviously when I met you a couple years back, you're in the Libertarian Party as recently as the last cycle. You were managing Kerry McKinnon's campaign. He's running for lieutenant governor. I know that was a good learning experience. But so what kind of transitioned you to here?
It really started. It was a Young Americans for Liberty dinner with Thomas Massey speaking, and I had some conversations with Massey himself, and I just decided I needed to be able to work with everyone, and pigeonholing myself down the libertarian path was preventing me from doing what I do best, which is getting people who will never work together to actually work together.
And clarify who Thomas Massey is.
Thomas Massey is a congressman, one of the three libertine.
Oh, there is three.
There's three.
Okay.
Amash, Massey, and Paul.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, if I guess Paul. I guess yeah. I mean, he kind of did the GOP thing for a while, but he was truly dyed in the wool. Yeah, lib. I mean, except for the abortion thing, I fucking love the guy. I agree with him on 98% of the crap. I mean, there's a lot of the libertarian stuff that I don't agree with, but as a principled person and someone who actually could do good for this country, yeah, absolutely. So, so how did the conversation with Thomas Massey go?
It was just basically talking campaign stuff, asking if he was going to have a primary challenger, if he thought there was going to be a campaign, asking if I could do anything, and just listening to what he had to say about working with the Republican Party and how you can change it from the inside. And some of that also came from talking to some of the staff members, some of these RLC caucus members.
Do you believe that, though? That he does he believe that? Because the Democrats can't do they can't change from that party is dead. That party is a decaying beast, as I believe the GOP to be. Can he change the party from within to change it to what?
I think it's going to have a schism.
Less insane. I mean, they voted for 6 Nazis and a dead pimp last cycle. So, how could he? How does he see it? How does he? I don't want to spend too much time with him, but how does he foresee changing the Republicans down the road?
Mostly through the grassroots and somewhat people dying. Being real.
Yeah. Well, they're getting old.
Hey, one of my teachers, the best thing he ever said was sometimes just you need some evil to die. And it was even referencing Emmett Till.
Right.
And that sheriff that took down or was responsible for the whole Emmett Till debacle.
Yeah. That guy, I read the book. You ever read the book on Emmett Till?
I didn't read the book.
It's grisly. I mean, I'm squeamish, so I can't, and his mother had an open casket funeral to show what these people did.
Yeah.
And the pictures are in the book, and I've
never seen the pictures. That's probably
it's gruesome. It's like Black Dahlia type stuff. I mean, these guys really, it was just these guys should have been hanged, But anyway, so now you're an independent. So what do you see coalescing all these disparate entities together, like through ballot access? What are you seeing kind of the unifying thing to get everybody to start working together? Because if you're progressive, there's a lot of things you're going to agree with a real conservative on. Abortion may not be one of them, for example. And I think that's kind of a useless topic anyway, but just as an example.
If it's going to be anything, it's election reform.
Okay.
Specifically that we change elections to being either approval voting or ranked choice voting. I don't know which one's better. I'm still looking for the data to say which one's better. the game theory, which removes the most strategic voting, and just figuring out which one's best. Although I've heard ranked choice is probably better just because most people will be able to wrap their mind around that.
Well, I mean, and most people don't, though. You give them a lot of credit. I mean, you know a lot. I mean, people, sometimes it's like I'm doing card tricks in front of a dog when I try to explain ranked choice voting to people. It's like really. But I've never really heard of approval voting. Can you explain that a little bit?
Approval voting is just a yes or no. You go down the ballot and you say, I approve of this person, I approve of this person, I don't approve of this person. And each person gets a point, and whoever has the most points at the end wins.
Isn't that kind of what we do now?
Except that you can vote for multiple people.
Oh, okay. So it's like ranked choice, except for they don't eliminate based on who got the most votes. It's just a point system.
It's probably quicker for our computer systems,
right?
But
okay. What are you favoring more?
Right now, I think approval.
Okay.
Just because I think it'll be
simpler.
Okay. Less probability for error in calculating it.
Okay.
That's what I think will be the big things deciding it, because we still need that integrity.
Okay.
We don't want elections taking months to decide or calculate the votes.
All right. Well, and speak of the devil, just this week he's going to be on, I think, Monday. Kerry McKinnon, your former client guy, is that what you call him?
Yes.
Client? Okay. He was speaking in favor of ballot access. But you don't. Do you see that as an option, or if that would help? Would that help everybody, or no?
Ballot access needs to be available to everyone. The threshold to maintain it should be 1% of the vote across the board. If you can maintain 1%, you should be on the ballot.
Okay.
That's plain simple. The problem is we're having people that want to restrict ballot access so that way there's no competition.
Right.
And if you have to fight for ballot access every time and waste money getting ballot access, say getting 100,000 signatures, which is at least $100,000, that's money's not spent on campaigns. And that gives the other guys who already have a ton of money an edge. Plus, there's already primaries that are paid for by taxpayers.
Okay.
And at least main party primaries. So that gives them free marketing for their campaigns.
Right.
That's through an extra election.
Right. Well, that being said, I mean, now that you're an independent, and I've been maintaining this for a long time, I mean, do you think we should just get rid of parties? They're not in the Constitution. I mean, they're basically nonprofits. It's like the Red Cross decides to be a party. I mean, so what?
Freedom to associate.
Okay.
Everyone has the freedom to associate with who they want to associate with. I think it's perfectly fine. The problem with parties is, again, it goes back to our voting. If we had ranked choice or approval voting, we could have one wouldn't be the lesser of two evils, and you could have multiple candidates on the ballot, and it wouldn't be winner take all. You would have being able to vote for multiple people would allow for a better spread.
Okay.
That's the best way to explain it.
Yeah, better spread, sure.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be winner take all. It wouldn't be you get this much of the pie. It's basically yes or no.
Right.
But to do that, also, you'd probably need to get the rules changed in all political parties.
Well, first of all, there's no, and the DNC, when they were sued a couple of years back after the Bernie debacle, they were sued and said in court, we don't owe the voter. They were sued in a class action with a bunch of Democratic voters who were pissed that obviously Bernie was cheated, now that there was evidence that he had been cheated. It wasn't just a conspiracy theory. And then the lawyers in court flat out said, we don't owe the voter a fair vote. We can pick who we want because we are a nonprofit. We are a private corporation. We can do what we want.
And that's completely fair. It's wrong.
Right.
But that's why we need the party rules.
Well, see, I wouldn't say it's fair. It's legal.
It's legal.
Right.
But that's why we need the party rules to change.
Right.
Allow the parties to nominate more than one candidate, which, again, if you get that at the same time as approval or ranked choice voting, then you can have it not being detrimental to these parties. And you could have candidates also go to multiple parties and get a sponsorship for ballot access.
Couldn't we, for example, just get rid of parties altogether and make them illegal and go to publicly funded elections?
We could.
Excuse me.
But money speech.
Money speech? Money
is speech.
Well, now it is.
Why should I not be able to spend the money I've earned and be able to influence an election?
Influence an election or buy votes and cheat? You can throw all the keggers you want. That'll influence the election.
Yeah.
But to have a super delegate system, which is an ersatz electoral college?
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to run for office, I would throw keggers and have barbecues and get on a park bench, and yell and do stuff. Maybe I'll influence your vote. That's what influence. You get out there, you're campaigning. That's part of campaigning. But to you know, to rig an election. And the superdelegate system is basically, you know, for all the so-called liberals that bitch about the Electoral College, I'm like, what's superdelegates?
Superdelegates and Electoral College are completely different.
Not really. It's the same. It's the same setup. You pledge delegates to the state before the first vote is cast. West Virginia, Hawaii, Minnesota, Michigan were all superdelegated to Hillary. She won 27 to 23 states against Bernie Sanders, for example. Right? Those 4 states that were superdelegated, if Bernie won them, which he did in the popular vote, he would have got those states, no questions asked, right? But they were super delegated. That's just as good as Jim Crow. It's basically an ersatz electoral college. It's no real difference. And then if you take the 14 states that were under investigation, most famously New York, which mysteriously lost 200,000 voters in Brooklyn. Well, what a coincidence! Just it happened to be Brooklyn. It's sort of like they fight for my rights in oil-rich countries, but they don't fight for my rights in like Peru.
They still function differently, though.
I know they function differently, technically, 100%. But to tell me it's not the same result, you're still overriding the will of the voter.
Yeah,
it's still not a popular vote.
Well, the Electoral College is to override the will of the voter,
100%, and the superdelegates are too.
But it's a last check and balance.
The superdelegates are first check and balance because you make those deals with. If you're Hillary Clinton and you got a card file on everybody. And you know what kind of rub they like on their meat, what kind of whiskeys they drink, and what kind of women they don't bring home to their mama, right? Quoting LBJ there, that was his tactic. And I don't think Hillary Clinton strayed too far from the tree. I mean, how do you commit every superdelegate in 2015 when not a single vote has been cast? You know, you do it because you're the Clintons, and you blackmail people.
Yeah.
And so, but the result is the same. It's, you know, like you said, like Electoral College is the last party. Okay, fine, but the superdelegates is the first line.
Well, I think parties are stupid for even using primaries to decide their elections
and that's
or their candidates.
Isn't that relatively new? Like at least 80 years. We didn't have primaries the entire history of this country, did we?
I don't think so.
It was.
I think having them is great. Use them as a metric. See what candidates are doing well, but to decide solely on that, you should see what of your candidates are doing well, and then also calculate what candidate will do the best against your opponent.
Right. Okay.
Instead of just going with winner take all.
Yeah.
It's just basic strategy.
Right. So how would you propose in a real way, all joking aside, getting rid of parties?
I wouldn't get rid of parties.
Okay.
I would end the 2-party system and allow for multiple parties.
How could we do that?
We go back to, again, ranked choice voting, change the party rules where they can have multiple candidates nominated, and candidates can go to multiple parties. I would love to be able to spell out Liberty next to my name if I ever run up for office.
Okay.
With all the party nominations I've got.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, then, let me ask you earlier, a second ago, when I said publicly funded elections, and you said you want to spend your own money as you see fit. What did you mean by that? As a campaigner or as a taxpayer?
As a taxpayer.
Okay. So.
Well, and as a campaigner.
Okay.
If I find a candidate I like, I should be able to spend as much money as I want to, because basically that's war. And
isn't that what we have already?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not working out, is it?
It's
not working out. We suck, bro. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not working out, man. It's like this is why we have the lesser two evils running every goddamn cycle.
But no, part of the problem really is we're an exception. You and I are both an exception.
I don't see how, but okay.
We are an exception in that we actually pay attention and care.
Oh, okay. Well, then,
and the majority of people don't. They're busy with keeping up with the Kardashians, being basic.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that will interest them in politics. They see Trump and they see him as a meme, and that's why they like Trump. That's all there is to it. And the only way to change that is for us to have basically an intellectual renaissance across the board.
Well, that's being optimistic.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
It's going to take a...
That's not going to happen. Yeah. No, you were young when 9/11 happened. I remember when 9/11 happened. The week before, the news was loaded with Sharknado. Will Brittany and Justin get back together? What else was going on? It's basically teabagging strippers, kind of shit we still do now. 9/11 happened. For about a month, everybody got super deep, right? TV got real deep. Why? Why would they do this? What did we do to these people? And all of a sudden, you saw these documentaries on Islam and, all the fuckery we'd been doing out there for years. And then books on philosophy and religion were flying off the shelves. You couldn't get one at Borders. They were all sold out. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, what is life? Why does God have feet? All these books were just gone, right? 1 month that lasted. 9/11 happened in September. By December of that very same year, Christmas time comes around, I see people on the news bitching at the airport because security got tightened.
Now, is that social programming or is that the nature of people?
The nature of people.
Aristotle would argue it's the nature of people.
Yeah, well, my favorite phrase in the Bible is "Give us Barabbas,"
which means
when Pontius Pilate wanted to wash his hands of the whole thing with Jesus because it was going to be a political football for him, and Jesus just basically did catering for 5,000 people and raised a guy from the dead and walked on water, so he was actually kind of popular. But they were kind of pissed at him because the Pharisees who didn't like him smeared him, and that should sound familiar. And so he already had a bad rap. This is how the story goes. There's no proof of this stuff, but this is the story. So Pontius Pilate, who in the movie with Willem Dafoe was played by David Bowie, and he did a great job playing Pontius Pilate. So he walks him out onto the balcony, and he goes, "Whatever the people say, I wash my hands." And what do the people say? "Give us Barabbas." Now, Barabbas was a convicted cop killer. He killed Roman guards, which is basically being a cop killer. And the people chose the cop killer over Jesus. It's human nature, man. We're gonna do that every time. This intellectual renaissance, great idea.
So now the question is: current democracy failing? I mean, in China, they don't really have a choice, and the people don't seem to care.
No, because you know why? They got their little screens. They got their little screens, and they got the Chinese got capitalism. See, that's what they did. They're capitalist dictatorship. The other day, somebody was telling me that oh no, well they're dictatorship. I said they're capitalist dictatorship.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
in just a second. But
yeah.
one more thing on this.
No. I didn't mean to jump ahead of the horse. I know you have some points you want to start, but that's my point. Is that it is still, if you got a McDonald's, and yeah, there's rights that they trample, but so do we. But yeah, they're a dictatorship.
Yeah.
But make your point. I'm sorry.
But the democracy is. Maybe the founding fathers were right, and there needs to be some kind of litmus test to make sure you're able to vote, and not just age.
Well, back then it was if you own property, because even white guys who didn't have property couldn't vote. People forget that.
I think it should be a basic intelligence test.
Civics test. And okay, I admit I agree with you. Not altruistically, hypothetically.
At least a civics test. At least a civics test. If you're going to be telling what the government should do, you should know how it functions.
Fair enough. Because I remember a survey in 2005 came. This is when Bush Cheney were in the White House, and it was a survey who do you recognize? And Fantasia, who was at the time an American Idol chick, more people knew who she was than did the Vice President of the United States. In fact, she got like an 85% recognition rating, and Dick Cheney got an 11%.
I read over 50% of people don't know the three branches of government.
50? Wow, that's being generous. I would say 80.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number. I just know it was at least 50%.
Oh, it's abysmal. No, it's abysmal, bro. It's abysmal. So this intellectual renaissance continue. I like to hear you young kids chop it up and tell me.
It's basic curiosity, and that's what they don't teach in schools anymore. Is they teach here's the book, here's the book, here's the book instead of
you're right.
Go explore.
No, you're right. We're taught how to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
And we've basically turned schools into trade schools.
And I've witnessed something. It was just a random TED Talk recently, which explained that maybe what we need to be doing is in elementary school, instead of teaching kids math, science, things like that, we need to be teaching them ways to think, ways to get their mind, how to improve your memory, how to just think quicker, how to have a more flexible mind.
Well, you were
calmer mind.
Well, you were in high school more recently than me. Did you all have civics or social studies? What did you call it? Did you have anything like that? What did you call it?
We had history.
Okay, history, but not civics.
We had history. I didn't take history courses in high school. I took them at the community college at ACC here.
Okay.
And that was just a better option because I got college credit.
Right. Oh, when you were in high school, you went to ACC.
I went to ACC, got college credit, and AISD paid for it.
Well, do you know if civics or social studies are taught at your old high school or in AISD, for example?
I know at my high school it is, but it's mostly the difference is there's the AP kids and there's the regular kids.
That's always been that way.
Yeah, and the AP kids get an education. The regular kids basically get handed lollipops.
Hence public school.
Yeah.
Hence public school. I say this all the time, real briefly, because I barely went to college. I almost didn't go. I wasn't going to go. And between my dad and my girlfriend at the time, I got my ass kicked to go to JC at first. And my dad was like, just give it a year. Even a stop clock tells the time right twice a day because my dad's a fucking prick. But he talked me into going to school. And it was free. JC was free at that time. You didn't pay for units. You paid $15 a semester. That was it. But all that to say that I didn't take the SAT. I didn't bother because I wasn't going to go at all. And so all that the regular kids. I got a B average. I came out with a 3.0, right on the nose. And I was the guy who had his homework in his pocket, and because I didn't have the AP classes. And I had no study skills at all whatsoever. I had to relearn how to write an essay in junior college. I had to take 3 semesters of remedial math because my public school, if you weren't going to go to college, you only needed 1 year of math in high school to graduate. So I got out of fractions in junior high. I took algebra 1 and 2 in high school with this guy named Mr. Taylor, who if you did a sport, you didn't have to show up. So I got an A the first semester and a B the second semester for never showing up to class. After lunch, we'd go to Wiener Schnitzel, ditch, 5th period, then go to practice. That's what I did. So when I get to college, they put me in geometry. I hadn't had math in 4 years. And this guy looks at me like I'm special needs, man. We had a pop quiz the first week. He goes, hey, can you come here for a second? I'll never forget the look on his face. He's checking for clarity. He's looking in my eyes, make sure I'm not autistic or Asperger's or whatever. And he asked me, he goes, when was the last time you had algebra, man? Because I was guessing on this geometry quiz. I was just drawing. So I don't remember. And they put me in remedial math. And that was the level of the regular kids' education. That was back then when I actually did get a decent education because I learned a lot. I actually learned how to think. I had some great teachers in high school that taught me some stuff.
Yeah, I only had one real teacher that taught me to think, and that was a special course that they had at my high school.
Right.
And his whole course was how to think, how to be curious.
Right.
It was everything from art to sports to science to history.
See, in high school when I was in the regular classes. And anyone that knows me in high school knows this. They were right there with me. And my AP friends, they still know me, and they went to college, straight out to UCLA, straight out to USC. But the regular kids, we had a psychology elective, which we were able to take. I took with some great teachers, 2 of them. Had a composition class with this guy who was just one of the sharpest dudes. Just really taught us a lot, right? I mean, I learned from 5 or 6 teachers in high school, which I don't know if anybody can really count that these days. I learned a lot of life things that to this day, at the age of 55, I still think about. You know what I mean? I carry with me. And I don't see kids with that kind of experience anymore. No. It's like you said. It's like STEM.
Well, we don't incentivize teachers to be good teachers.
Especially, I don't know if we ever did.
And I have a problem with this current pay raise. They're giving a blanket pay raise to all teachers in the state of Texas.
Okay.
Big problem with that. We should be disincentivizing by giving pay deductions to bad teachers.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. You can fire bad teachers always because y'all don't have a union here. You got right to work. You can give a teacher a year's notice and they're out, semester and they're out.
Yeah.
It's not like in California because it's collective bargaining, which I agree with. But the downfall of that is, as far as teachers go, it's an act of Congress to get a teacher fired in California. Yeah, even when I was subbing for 3 years in Los Angeles Unified. Technically, I had no rights, but I paid my union dues. And so the shop steward there, because I was in a really bad school in South Central LA, I didn't get along with the assistant principal at all. And he went to bat for me several times with that guy because that guy was, just an inept idiot. And he knew that. So he went to bat for me, even though I was technically, not supposed to be governed by the union. But his attitude was, well, they're taking your union dues whether you like it or not. And so, the benefit of that, though, is I got kick-ass health insurance for a while. But yeah, anyway, but my point is, at your age, and this is why, and I don't want to get too into the weeds with this because I want to talk about some other stuff, but that's why I was asking you if they were teaching civics. Because in the 70s, they called it civics, and then they changed it. When I was teaching school for a while, they taught social studies.
Yeah. And now it's history. And it's still social studies for the most part.
Okay. So, but it's not just a recitation of dates and facts. They actually teach you some of the whys and wherefores and, kind of what these guys might have been thinking. When
I was fortunate. I had a great education.
Well, you went to ACC first, and then you went to college.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had a great education. I got lucky with my teachers in schools. I was in a upper middle class, middle class neighborhood.
I was going to say also, you got lucky with your parents, too.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure your dad would kick your ass if you fucked around too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that.
Well, I fucked around.
I'm pretty progressive, but there's nothing to replace a good whack in the ass.
I fucked around, but I was too smart to be able to get by.
Right.
So I could sleep through courses and not open a book and get through the class and get an A or a B.
Right. I mean, I got through college with a gentleman's C. I graduated with a bachelor's degree.
Hey, I got C's get degrees, and I'm not one to argue with that because I was the same.
And in keeping to the tradition, I flunked statistics twice and geology 3 times. and then when I petitioned those courses, they didn't affect my overall GPA. But still, 2.4, that's pathetic. That's pathetic.
Hey, I'm thinking of getting my grades expunged, actually.
I don't even think anyone looks. Because anything I've ever...
I might go to grad school. That's why.
Well, you know what? If you can, I got into Claremont Graduate School in the 90s, and I had a kick-ass paper. That got me in. I was majoring in education.
Well, we're going to go over my topic for my paper in just a second.
Oh, bingo. Oh, I love it. Okay, so... in we got into the weeds a little bit, but so how do you end the two-party system before we move on?
You have to have ranked choice or approval voting, and you have to have multiple parties be able to nominate a candidate and have parties be able to nominate multiple candidates.
So, but it can't be this bullshit with the Council on Presidential Debates, these corporate-owned entities.
No.
Arbitrarily saying you got to have, 11 billion independent donors to your site in 30 different states, and, they can't be on the 4th of July with a hurricane. I mean...
No, I think it's fair to cap it at the top 5 rated people. That's fair.
Okay. But where would you set that kind of a number, though?
Just picking 5. That's how many before a debate stage gets really
Because
crowded.
in the last cycle, you had 2 very popular third-party people who couldn't get arrested, and they got the JV town halls when CNN kind of felt bad because they finally realized, oh, gee whiz, we really did get Trump the nomination. I guess we're a bunch of dickheads. MSDNC and fuckhead news. They well, let's let Gary Johnson say a couple things. Let's let Jill Stein say a couple things. But they had this, this arbitrary, you got to get 15% recognition or popularity or whatever.
Which most people aren't going to hear about you unless you're on the debate.
Boom. They learned their lesson from Ross Perot in the 90s. That's why. They learned their lesson from Ross Perot in the 90s, and they were not going to let that happen again.
To some degree, Trump's right on fake news.
Dude, this Russiagate shit made him a victim. And how you can make an orange game show host asshole look like a victim, that's a miracle. Seriously, you should write the Pope and get a sainthood. Because that's fucking amazing. That's amazing. If the DNC could do a couple of card tricks, I bet you Pope Frank would give him a sainthood. It's very nice the trick. I like it. Okay, you Saint Tom Perez. Nice for you this. But seriously, man, it's like it was amazing because now he's got something that's going to stick. And for 3 years, they've been focusing on this James Bond as a documentary bullshit versus his crimes. Obstruction of justice is obstruction of justice. The emoluments clause is a real thing. His tariffs are failing all over the world. We got China and Russia getting off the dollar, cashing in U.S. debt. I mean, China's been using the petro yuan now for 18 months, and they're buying soybeans from India with the petro yuan, not the dollar.
And why do you think we're going to Iran?
No, oil. No, my rights. I'm sorry, my rights.
Your rights?
My rights. Yeah, they're protecting my rights. Come on.
I thought they were stepping away from the U.S. currency.
Yeah, they did. They did last year.
Yeah.
They got pissy when the deal got fucked. They go, okay, fuck you. We're going to go to the euro, and that's what they did to Hussein. But here's the thing: Iran is not Iraq, and we got our ass kicked in Iraq. When you said people don't know anything, people don't know we got our ass kicked in Iraq. They don't know we got our ass kicked in Afghanistan, and still getting our asses kicked. But the weapons business keeps making money, so we don't concede defeat. Syria, Libya's slaves. Awesome, slaves made a comeback. Who knew? Right? It's just going to keep going on and on.
Yeah. And Iran, that's completely different than any other group because who put the government in place to start with that's there now?
In Iran?
Yeah.
You mean after the overthrow?
Yeah. Who was the one who caused the overthrow?
Well, we did.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a trick question, we did. We've been doing that shit for 80 years at least. But in Iran, they fought ISIS for us. They fought Al Qaeda. They don't like those people, right? Because they're not considered Muslim enough for those guys. So it's like they're on our side.
Yeah.
And by the way, how many bases they got outside of Iran? Yeah. Meanwhile, they're surrounded by 70 U.S. bases, and it's about the oil, man.
And this is just a war. As long as we're there, it's the Crusades. It's still the Greeks and the Persians.
Yes. Thank you.
It's that far back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I always tell people, and you'll get this, but most of my friends don't, except for my one buddy who actually majored in philosophy and history. I believe that Obama was Constantine I, and Trump is Commodus.
Oh, completely.
Because he's staging the fake wrestling shit. He's not. I mean, he's a total fraud. He's making up numbers, and and Obama was just like gently, quietly behind the scenes, selling out the entire empire and gutting the rest of the system, and then he gives the gun to the baby. And then we're gonna get 2 or 3 more bad emperors before the whole shithouse goes up in flames. That's my little opinion.
Yeah, Trump is Commodus and President Camacho. He's a combination of the two.
He's Hector Elizondo Montandu Camacho. That's the full name, if you want to get that right. That's the full name. Idiocracy made flesh. All right, man. So, hey, and I want to get to the last part last, but let's talk about the main thesis of your paper. I know you sent me a little email, but let's jump into it.
So let's start with: do you think you're more of a capitalist or a socialist, and why?
I would say I'm more of a profiteer because I don't like the modern definition of capitalist. To me, capitalism is win, fuck you. Whereas I'm of the idea that I like to make money. I'm in sales. I'm not going to lie. That's my day job. But my whole enterprise and what I deal in is win-win. You have to want it. We have to serve you. If we don't serve you, you don't pay us. Period. That's end of list. Okay. It's not, if I believe in running a water pipeline through your neighborhood and I could profit from it and you get some clean water and you pay for it and you're happy versus me running a oil pipeline and pouring noxious gases into a poor black neighborhood or something where it's me win and then fuck you. So the modern term of the word capitalist, and even the Marxist term of the word capitalist, I think people get lost in that. Like when they talk about exploitation, he doesn't mean it like exploiting like with Simon Legree and a whip. He's just like, it's the definition of if I pay you $20 an hour to do something, I'm getting more than $20 an hour out of you to make this product so I could sell it at a profit. That's all he means by exploitation. So I think people kind of try to vilify it because the problem with Marx is he had a great critique of capitalism, but he had no solution. Because communism on paper is a great idea, but human nature, it's always designed to overreach, which was the challenge with him. Right? I mean, people like the critique of capitalism, but then they sort of, which I think socialism has never been tried in this world, in my opinion. But I think the softer version of what he was trying to say is a combination of the two. But I would consider myself a profit person. I don't consider myself a capitalist.
Well, I've been looking into the definitions, just trying to figure out what's what, and part of that brought me to what Hobbes has said about we need to have our words defined, and if we don't define, everyone's going to be confused. Right. I think everyone's confused right now. They don't know what is what.
Do people think communism is socialism?
Yeah. Well, communism is a form of socialism. It's basically a meritocracy socialism with a universal basic income when you look at the definition specifically. That's really what communism is. Right. But when we break these variables down, we realize we need to redefine them because socialism and capitalism are about 4 variables and they're all labeled the same thing. Okay. So think of how that is going to be on a graph. Are you going to know what's going on if I graphed that?
Well, if they're all the same thing, then no.
No, you'd have no idea what that graph says. Right. Then so we need to redefine the terms. Okay. So the terms I've come up with are, at their most reduction state, are capitalist and socialist. Socialist being a publicly owned business. Capitalist being a privately owned business. Okay. That's the means of production, right? Yeah. That's capitalism, socialism. Right. There's models of, I forget what the name of the socialist business is, but it's a large energy company, I think, based out of Spain.
Well, most of the electricity companies in this country are socialist. Yeah. Well, credit unions are socialist.
Somewhat.
Socialist enough. They're better than goddamn Wells Fargo or fucking Chase Bank.
Yeah. But this is why we have to redefine the terms because A plus B does not equal C plus D plus E plus F. Right. The odds of those numbers being equal to each other is extremely low.
Right.
So obviously these terms are different.
So what are the other 2 terms? You said so redefine socialism, redefine capitalism. What are the other 2 terms?
Socialism and capitalism, those are just a scale on the variables. Those are opposite variables. Oh, okay. So there's 3 other variables we've got to work with. Okay. The other is free market and monopolies. Okay. Basically, they're 2 opposites. Either you have full ownership of one thing or it's a completely free market and there's competition.
Okay, let's dive into free market for a second because define free market as you see it now.
Free market is basically there's competition in the marketplace. Okay. You can have any competition come up and just come around and compete with you.
Okay, but we don't do that.
No.
We don't do that. The guys that say that they cry free market and Ayn Rand, they are full of shit. They create monopolies. In fact, regulations in the early 1900s were designed to keep the small guy out of the business that the big guy wanted to monopolize.
Which brings us to the next one, which is government. And
this was not rehearsed, folks.
I've picked libertarian or liberty. Okay. I don't really have a specific term for the other end of it. It's just less government. Anarchy, if you want to go with it.
Well, I mean, anarchy to what point, though? I mean,
government and anarchy are opposites, correct?
Well, that really depends. I don't know if government and anarchy. It's what I say. The system we have now is socialism for the rich and capitalism for the rest of us.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it is. I mean, the banks, you got a $13 trillion bailout. You know how much it would have cost to bail out those homeowners? $1.4 trillion. And then when you look at the pension funds that those guys fucked over and the retirement accounts that those guys fucked over and the world's wealth was evaporated in one day by 40%, and those guys got a bailout?
And this is why we needed to redefine what socialism is, because that gives socialism a bad rep. Because
they don't call it socialism.
Yeah, but socialism on its basic level, when it's a business model, great thing. If you want to run your business that way and it's voluntary, who cares?
Like co-ops and shit like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great. But whenever you have government stepping in and giving subsidies, then
we own you, by the way. That little side note. I believe in receivership. You don't pay
we own you.
If you don't have your property taxes paid, your house goes into receivership. If you don't make your house payment, it goes into receivership. We gave you money, Jamin Diamond, you're a fucking employee. You didn't build Chase Bank from your bare hands. We owe you. We own you.
How do you feel about government subsidized companies monitoring free speech?
I don't. I don't. If they're anybody, like, first of all, we shouldn't be monitoring free speech. Everyone should have the freedom to say what they want to say and suffer the consequences thereof. Like Alex Jones can still flush a toilet, right? They took him off all these platforms, and within 2 weeks, and I predicted this like the ghost of Christmas fucking future, within 2 weeks, all the lefty sites were getting taken down too, because they didn't like Hillary Clinton. So they took down Mint Press News, Gray Zone, they took down Truth Dig, they took down all these lefty, peer-reviewed sites, by the way. It's not some guy sitting in his garage in Austin ranting like a crazy person. But Alex Jones gets taken off all these platforms, yet he still has his utilities, he has a phone, he's got electricity, he's got a toilet. And I say we take Teddy Roosevelt era antitrust laws and go after these motherfuckers and break them up. Facebook is too goddamn big.
Yeah.
If you're too goddamn big to threaten the public interest like the banks were, then we go back to the Stone Age, right? We go back to individual guys making their own ISP in their garage, and then they maybe sell it to fucking Earthlink for $10 million.
I think large corporations are, if you're a public sector and you're working within a government's domain, I think they should be held to the same standards as a constitution.
Yes, absolutely, 100% agree with that.
So it's just accountability.
Yeah.
A lot of libertarians would be against that, just because they don't want too much regulation and things like that. But I think anything that is a protection of the people,
right.
My only thing is against discrimination, because I think forced integration is actually terrible, and we need.
Well, when you say forced integration, in what sense? I missed something you said.
Basically, allowing businesses to not discriminate or forcing them to not be able to discriminate. I think businesses should be able to discriminate, and then that way we can run those businesses out.
Fuck them. Not if they're using my sidewalk.
If they want to do that, fine, but we'll run them out of business.
Well, we can run them. We can run them out of business, or what? I mean, bang up job with Chick-fil-A, right? I mean, you suffer the consequence, right? If there is a consequence, Chick-fil-A is so big, but but as far as like, there should. I think any business that chooses to discriminate should be held to a different. They should be held accountable.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Denny's got their asses sued a few years back, and rightfully so. And when you see the video, it's obvious. So I mean, but continue.
But I actually think it's prevented real integration. I think it's part of why we're having such a race conflict in this nation right now, because it didn't happen naturally.
Okay.
It didn't build the proper infrastructure for people to come together and say, hey, here's what we have in common. Instead, it was kind of a begrudging, we have to deal with each other now.
You know what? Let me back up for a second. I think a lion's share of that is the economy. And even Martin Luther King said, if you don't have social and economic justice, you don't have anything. I agree with you to a point when you said the forced integration, because that was just the fealty that the left was paying to political correctness and multiculturalism. That's like the last language they have left.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly. Seriously, it's like, if I have a multicultural Taco Bell, who gives a shit? They're still working at Taco Bell. Give these people real jobs. And when I grew up I grew up in South Central in the 70s, where we had jobs. We had, like, the minimum wage was about $1.25, $1.10, and you had union workers making $9 an hour, right? And so you had black guys, Mexican guys, white guys, everybody working at Ford or Firestone or Bethlehem Steel, all in my area, right? These were jobs all in my area. Down south in the Bay Area was like Hewlett Packard and McDonnell Douglas, the big high ticket union jobs, right? The airplanes and all that stuff. So all things being equal, my school was mixed, but everyone's dad made plus or minus about the same money. So you didn't really have any hassles with anybody. It wasn't like I didn't notice the guy was black. Sure I did, but I didn't think much about it. because he went to my school, and we kind of did the same stuff.
Trades were the great equalizer.
Excuse me?
Trades were the great equalizer.
Absolutely, and we took that away.
Yeah.
And so if you take that away, and now you got the quote unquote white collar jobs, and if folks aren't educated, they can't get those jobs.
Even if you are educated, they're near impossible to get.
Absolutely. And so, but I'm just kind of putting, and even then, color doesn't have anything to do with the meritocracy, right? I mean, you look at the last 10, 15, 20 years, you look at the Obama administration. Most of those folks came from humble beginnings, but they worked their way up the ladder, got a Rhodes Scholarship, and now they're in the Obama administration, and now they're, on boards of directors bombing countries and shit, right? Because, they made it, right? So it doesn't even matter your color, it matters your class. So, but anyway, I agree with you that the forced integration can have some bad effects, but I think a lot of it is mostly because we're making people commute to places they wouldn't ordinarily go to.
Yeah,
that's part of it too.
Most black people want to stay around black people. Most white people want to stay around white people. That's just.
I don't necessarily agree with that either.
That's just what the data shows.
Yeah, well,
unfortunately, that's what the data shows.
Yeah, I don't know.
And again, I think it goes back to, as we said earlier, the basic.
I know this term isn't popular, but I don't like white trash.
I don't either.
So it's like they look like me kind of ish, but then I listen to them talk, and they start talking, and I'm like, oh, sure, I'm not cool with it. They say nigger or whatever, and I'm like, okay, those people aren't they're not my friends.
I was in a fraternity at Texas A&M. I cut some friends out just because of
because you see when they're around you and they're comfortable and they let their hair down, they say some heinous shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I get it, but I'm sorry, but continue on your point though.
Okay, back to where we were. The other variable is private property and public property. Mm-hmm. Public property is basically free or owned by the public, parks, things like that.
Right.
Wild land, water supplies.
Sure.
Because I don't think anyone should own a lake. I don't think you should be able to own up to a certain point in the lake and say, I can own this much, because then you get into, there's no actual way to calculate how much water is yours and how much you're taking out.
Okay.
It's basic stuff like that. The air, that's a big public property.
Okay.
Just basic things. Right. And we need public property. We also need private property, because what's mine is mine, and that's simple.
Well, that's a whole nother hour. Property is theft in the locus classicus by Perdome. So, and I dance with that because it's not something I completely believe for me. It's like it's hypocritical, but it's just fun to talk about.
Hey, it goes back to us being animals.
Yeah.
I mean, when an animal has a piece of food, it's their food, and if you want to take it from them, they have every right to kill you to try and keep you from eating it.
Okay, but so so all these definitions, what's the punchline?
The punchline is that we need to be looking at these in a multivariable facet.
Okay.
And if we look at them, we can see what the real evils are.
Okay.
Because right now we have capitalism and socialism, and everyone thinks there's the boogeyman out there. Mm-hmm. And they're so awful. But when you break it down, you can see what's really bad, which is monopolies, government, and private property and public property are different things. Capitalism and socialism, different things, and they're sliding scales.
Okay.
Once your company's publicly traded, you're starting to shift towards socialism.
How so? Explain that.
So if socialism is full public ownership of your company, everyone owns your company, and capitalism is one person owns the company.
Okay.
As soon as you have more owners, you're shifting more and more towards socialism. And once it's publicly traded, then you're shifting more and more towards socialism because there's more and more owners. In theory, that's a great idea, but Lloyd Blankfein answers to nobody. Jamie Dimon answers to nobody. They got shareholders, and they don't give a shit. When Wells Fargo took $50 billion from the United States, or Bank of America rather, took a $50 billion bailout from the United States, and they were forced to buy Merrill Lynch for $12 billion, they didn't even want to do it because Merrill Lynch was so fucking shitty. But then Henry Paulson says, no. If you don't, we're going to remove you and remove the management at Merrill Lynch. And so you will do this deal or we're removing you. It's almost like the mobsters. It's like fucking the mafia. If you ain't got a nice bank, it'd be very terrible if it fell down the stairs or something. I can't help it. I don't know what to tell you. And it's like that's what they were doing. Yeah, private.
So the Merrill Lynch shareholders had nothing to say about it, and that sold at $2 a share, by the way, wildly undervalued, even with all their debt and all their bullshit. But my point in all of that is the shareholders don't have ownership like the board does or like the C-level guys do who jack up the share price and then base their bonuses on buying back their.
What do you think is going to happen in a fully socialist company? There's still going to be a hierarchy. Hierarchies just form.
Hierarchies exist, but but to say the shareholders have a share or a stake, even a 20% shareholder doesn't have the kind of say so that Jamie Dimon has.
Yeah, and that's why it's a scale. It's not perfect,
right?
But it's the best we can come up with to analyze it.
Sure.
And it's a sliding scale.
Sure.
Private to public property, sliding scale.
Right. Government
to liberty, sliding scale.
Sure.
Monopolies to free markets, sliding scale.
See, but I don't know. I think, well, I mean, if you can get out there and compete in an organic way and succeed, awesome. But I think free market is just something made up by a bunch of capitalists trying to jerry-rig the system and create monopolies. I don't think they mean it.
Most people, yeah.
I mean, we gave the banks $26 trillion. We've been subsidizing them $85 billion a year for the last 10 years. We give them $26 trillion at zero interest, a loan back to us. It's time we nationalize the banks, get a better interest rate, have the taxpayer truly benefit. I don't get any benefit from Jamie Dimon. I don't get any benefit from Lloyd Blankfein. I don't get any benefit from Wells or Bank of America or any of those people. I would get a lower interest rate on my credit cards and a lower interest rate on my car loan if the government loaned me the money based on my approved credit.
Well, we need different alternatives to banks. We've been using the same system for however long, and most people agree banks are evil.
Yeah, well, fucking Bretton Woods, man.
And they shouldn't be nationalized. We should come up with alternatives.
Well, I'm punitive. I would like to nationalize just to punish those motherfuckers. It's probably not logical at all. I'm 55. I'll be dead in 20 years. I'm just like, fuck it. Let's just take it all.
No, we're going to have that life support until 120.
Yeah, unfortunately. No, I won't be. I won't be here. No, at about 80. 80 is about the cutoff. I'll roll some plastic out and roll my ass out onto
Take care of it.
Fuck yeah, I got a pistol.
Jump off a bridge.
I got a pistol.
Skydiving accident.
No. It's real quick.
I mean, skydiving accident. You hit the ground and you're done.
I'm a chicken shit. I don't want to do that. I'd rather have something fast. That whole roller coaster ride, but you're going to die. It's not fun. That's not cool. I don't like my stomach. Wee wee. Oh no, there's no wee. That's going to suck.
Carbon monoxide poisoning. That's the best way.
Yeah, but so where do you see us going in the next, like, say, 5 to 10 years? We're not going to definitely do it in the next 2 years.
No. So in Texas, things open up because we don't have straight ticket voting for 2020. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how things go with House races. Mm-hmm. Things will be very, very different. Third parties, independents stand a much better chance. Mm-hmm. An independent could actually win because you're not going to have everyone voting for their presidential candidate. Right. Most people are going to, and then casting that vote for as well their House candidate. Right. So you'll have most of those left unvoted for. And that's going to cause independents to be able to get, I think specifically independents. Libertarians will get some, but I think independents stand a better chance, right. Specifically in Democrat districts, mostly because people are fed up with what's going on.
I think everybody's fed up, dude.
And I think the Republicans are just have too much religious fervor right now to challenge what's going on.
The Republicans are over. I mean, listen, the Democrats, we have one party. I know you know this.
Yeah.
And we dance around abortion and gay people and all this shit. But the bottom line is the Democrats became Republicans about 25 years ago, and the Republicans became insane, as evidenced by the fact that in the last cycle they voted for 6 Nazis and a dead pimp. Okay, so we don't have two parties. The Democrats just lay over. They pretend they care. We go into Iraq. We go into Iran. They're going to shrug their shoulders. Ideally, they don't want to go into Iran. But they go, there's nothing we can do. I really wanted to help them. That's what they do. They shrug their shoulders. Venezuela? Have you ever seen, if I ever get a dog, I'm going to name him Democrat. Because then if I give him a treat, he'll just roll over. And that's all he needs to do. Because it's just like, that's what they do. They don't fight for shit. They're paid to lose. They're like the good guy in wrestling. You're supposed to lose so that the villain can win. And that's why they would rather lose with a Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Beto or one of those knotheads than try to win with a Tulsi Gabbard or someone who's actually, hey, let's get out of these regime change
I would love
boards.
a President Tulsi.
Hell yeah. I mean, I have problems with her. Don't make no mistake. I have my problems with her. But overall, in the sea of Democrats, she's the only one that's talking about ending these regime change wars in earnest. She means it, and she's been shot at, so fuck all these people.
I weigh that more than any other. I outweigh that. It outweighs all other policy combined.
Well, that's fair. I know people that think that.
Because it's that important.
Yeah. And she's making decisions based on empathy because she's been there.
Yeah.
And also the money we've been spending on these regime change wars that we've been lied into. She gets it.
And what a respectable first woman president we'd have.
Oh, yeah.
Versus Hillary.
No. I have no problem with a woman president, but not her.
Yeah.
Just not her. Fucking Christ, not her. I think anybody but her.
That would set women back decades.
Fuck yeah. Here's a woman who couldn't make it on her own. She had to put up with her fucking philandering husband for years, right? Corrupt as the day is long. Forget about all the other stuff that I can't prove, but you and I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, right? There's like a magic number 65 or 70 now. It's like a lot of people commit suicide. But then you look at the other stuff with the Arabs paying her money and then the Russians paying her money. I mean, she went after Trump with the Russian shit because in 2015, 2016, and the email showed this, her biggest weakness was her connection to the Russians. So let's accuse my enemy of doing what I'm already doing. Because the Uranium One deal was all over the New York Times. And her husband got a $750,000 speaking fee as soon as that was all said and done. So it's like, you're not up for sale? You're selling weapons to the goddamn Saudis? And we're still doing it.
We're still doing it.
They just chopped off 37 heads 2 weeks ago. And we just gave them $40 billion to go bomb Yemen.
That genocide in Yemen, yeah.
Yeah, or $40 billion. We sold them $40 billion.
Over half their population is going to starve?
By the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's this. And so far, I think it's been like, it's upwards of 100,000 odd people have been killed already. But all that to say that any woman but her. But President Tulsi, I can get behind. Kamala Harris, I'm sorry. I'm from California. She was the worst attorney general we had in my lifetime. The Republican ran to the left of her. In 2010, the Republican wanted to legalize pot. He wanted to get rid of 3 strikes. She's like, no, be tough on crime. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be the Democrat. The Republican's saying all this cool shit. What the fuck? He was the last LA district attorney we had, a guy named Steve Cooley. And he lost. And she showed up in a little glam cow, and she refused to prosecute Steve Mnuchin. She refused to prosecute Goldman Sachs in California. Her investigators came to her with One West Bank. We got 1,000 cases of fraudulent foreclosures, forged, fraudulent. We got 1,000 more behind us. You got to indict this guy and his crew now. And she's like, nope, not even letting them further the investigation, much less no indictments whatsoever. And why? Goldman Sachs had just contributed a shit ton of money in 2010 to her Top Cop campaign, and they just thrown money toward her Senate race. It's
almost as bad as our Attorney General.
I'm just saying. It's listen, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right?
Oh yeah.
And when we're talking about overreach and human beings, look at the so-called progressives that got elected this last cycle. AOC, Rashida Tlaib. You know,
AOC's a puppet.
Fuck, dude. 100%. I mean, some of the things that she did, I'm like cool with. Like she was like, live tweeting when the lobbyist guy's saying, "This is how you take a bribe." That was cute. But then the rest of it, she's totally cool with going to Venezuela.
Yeah, no, there's a video out there somewhere.
She voted for fucking Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House.
There's a video out there somewhere that breaks down what are the powers behind her. But it comes back to Cenk Uygur, or guy from the Young Turks.
Okay.
He's
Cenk Uygur.
Cenk Uygur, yeah. He's basically the brain, some of the big brains behind her.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not a secret. She's a Justice Democrat. That was their little wing. It was sort of like their Tea Party. It was him and Kyle Kulinski. And they handpicked a bunch of people. The idea was you don't take money, you don't take PAC money, and they had all these rules, and you had to sign this oath, and you did it, and that was sort of what got them running. And I believe her story initially because she was a Justice Democrat.
She was cast for the role.
Well, so were all the Justice Democrats. They're handpicked for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they don't want Joe what's his face, the 25-year I'm the third, fourth guy behind Speaker in power who doesn't know shit. So I get what they were doing. The challenge is you can't control it once they get in. Yeah. And she's susceptible because Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski aren't covering her ass in Washington, right? They do their show out of New York.
Actually, they've got I forget how it works, but basically because she's paying her staff less, she's able to get money brought in, support from them. Well,
and here's the thing. So as far as Justice Democrats, I got no problem with Justice Democrats. I think Cenk Uygur, the idea is a good idea. I think who they picked and why they picked him was good. It was more than honorable. It's better than the goddamn DNC and the GOP. The challenge is you can't fix that party from within.
No.
So what I thought would have been a better idea than to run them as Democrats is to run them like your Libertarian buddies that got into the Congress and let them do their thing. But this whole bullshit of working these parties from within and fixing it, excuse me, they're going to cheat Bernie again. They're going to cheat Tulsi if she gets any steam.
We've seen what happens with the Republican Liberty Caucus here in Texas. Nothing happened in this session. It was a debacle.
Yeah. Well, and that's because you got this rotting carcass, and too many people are vested, man. It's like Bill Hicks said, you know, it's a ride. It's just one big ride.
Yeah.
And so when you look at AOC and you know I don't consider the Justice Democrats the strings that pull her. I think the Justice Democrats are actually an honorable organization. I think Cenk Uygur, Kyle Kulinski are trying to do something right. I think the challenge is once they get elected, the Rashida Tlaibs of the world, Ilhan Omar, yeah, she's had some cool things, some cool moments, but for the most part, she's a fucking puppet too. You know, she's against Venezuela, awesome, but she's going to sit there and tell me that Obama's one of the greatest presidents we ever had when he bombed your fucking country. He bombed Somalia, but he's one of the greatest presidents we had? Really? So when your side does it, it's okay for me, but not for thee?
Yeah.
I'm over that, dude.
Well, I'm ready to learn from their tactics and start recruiting candidates with star power, people who can actually impact people, have a strong voice, that just connect with people on a basic level.
Yeah, but you need more connecting, man. You need someone with policy and not afraid to do it. You know what you need? You need someone who's not afraid to get shot is what you need.
Are you afraid to get shot?
No, I'm not afraid to get shot. I just don't have the patience for it. I don't really have an attachment to life. I mean, you know, if in a moment of transparency, I don't want to like be maimed or have to live as a quadriplegic. But I've been on the wrong end of a gun a couple of times in my life, and I was amazingly peaceful when I thought I was amazingly peaceful. Like I wasn't crying later, or I wasn't in shock. I was just like, oh, I guess this is how it's going to go. Oh,
I mean,
it didn't go that way.
Death is just one of those things you accept it.
I had a bizarre father.
Getting maimed, that's awful.
That's terrible. Maimed, and I don't want to drown. I mean, but the actual concept of like being
burned alive. I don't want to be burned alive.
Yeah. But the whole being on the other side, I got no concept. I have no fear of that at all whatsoever. And it's because I had a weird father.
It's going to be what it is when you get there.
Fuck yeah.
We can't control it.
And I had a weird upbringing. So I'm like 5 years old. You know, I got this Arab Muslim father. You know, fucking the boy's got to know. I'm 5 years old. You know, one day you're going to die. My mom's freaking out. Don't say that. He's 5. No, he's got to know this. You're going to graduate high school, you're going to get married, and you're going to die. And that's how life goes. And you have to accept that. And if you hide in a closet, it doesn't matter. When God's got his time for you, it's over. You can't. I'm like, I'm 5. And I hear this shit all my life. Like, well, I guess I'm going to die one day. And now I'm just sort of like, yeah, it's cool. I mean, you know, I don't want to kill myself. I mean, you know, I've thought about it. I'm not going to lie about that either. But I'm not going to sit there and act like I'm just not afraid of dying. I hate when other people die. It fucking pisses me off when my friends die. I've had so many of my friends die.
Yeah.
It fucking sucks. But as far as me going, I'm like totally chill with it. I mean, I'm not afraid of the other deal. I don't know what's on the other side, and I don't care. I don't mind that I don't know, and it doesn't bother me not to know.
I'm curious.
I'll find out when I get there.
And I think maybe someday we could measure it.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, you know, but you know, a little. But as far as what you're saying, getting people that are charismatic, connect with people, you need more than that. I'd rather have somebody who's a little plain, who's got policy, who keeps saying the same 5 things over and over and over.
I need star power. Without star power, we're not going to get out.
Bernie's not a star, and I'm not a big Bernie fan these days. But you know what got him was what he was saying, his message. And did you notice as soon as he changed his message and started stumping for Hillary, what happened?
Yeah, and I want direct. That's the other thing I want.
Yeah,
I'm tired of these people just walking around. People like Crenshaw. He's one of my new favorites, partially just because of the porn star thing.
Not familiar.
And SNL basically said he's like a pirate or a pirate from porn.
Crenshaw? What, I don't know.
Crenshaw, he's the senator or the congressman with an eye patch.
On Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, or he's the real congressman, and basically Saturday Night Live made fun of him, saying he looked like a porn star.
Oh, okay. First of all, I know who he was, so pardon my ignorance. Secondly, I don't really watch much SNL these days. Last couple of years, it became a DNC Klan rally. I just don't care.
I don't either, but it was just one of those things that get headlines because he went on there and they wanted people were demanding an apology, and he was just like, "This is hilarious."
Yeah.
Which anyone who's like that is a good sport.
Right.
I can respect that.
Sure, absolutely. But to the point I was trying to make earlier, we got a few minutes left, but Bernie Sanders wasn't a rock star. People didn't dig him because of his rumpled suit and his $2 haircut, and his lens his Costco glasses. Right? I'm Bernie Sanders. I'll tell you something else. $27. I mean, he was not sexy, but his message was. It was the same 5 things over and over and over and over and over. Get out of the wars. Free college. College was free when I went to school, by the way. So it's not like I want a pony. But he was saying these things, and he was banging them like Trump was, 35,000 a stadium. And then when he went to stump for Clinton, he couldn't get 100 people in a gym.
Well, and part of what gave Bernie power, too, was his speech patterns. because he talked in a certain way.
He was idiosyncratic.
Yeah, and it stood out,
Right.
and you could tell a Bernie talk.
Right.
He also had his mannerisms.
Right.
You know Bernie.
Yeah. Right.
And it was just, he was a character.
Yeah, but not by design. So when you say
No.
star power, I get a little like
It's someone that has that, they stand out.
Right.
They're not the gray man.
right.
People like me, gray man.
I wouldn't say that, but continue.
Yeah, I'm a blonde Aryans.
Yeah,
I guess I do stand out in a crowd.
yeah, well, yeah. There's not too many blonde guys. You usually outgrow the blonde thing by the time you're like 10.
Yeah.
So like all my blonde buddies, I know one guy that's still blonde from when I was little. Now he's gray and a grandfather. But when we were kids, he was blonde till we lost our hair. But in all seriousness, though, when you say you're looking for people to start, because we got to wrap up here in a little bit. But when you say you're looking for people with star power. So you're not necessarily looking for someone who's like out of central casting. You're looking for someone who's honest but charismatic at the same time.
Yes.
But maybe like not meaning to be.
Yeah.
I mean, like Ocasio, I would have got her out of central casting.
And someone that can listen. That's my other requirement.
Yeah.
I don't even care if you're the best if you're super into politics. If you can get the message out there and lead a team,
Right.
then that's all we need.
But they got to have a vision.
They do have to have a vision.
They have to have a vision. The vision can't be written for them. That's Beto's problem. He had no vision running. Why did he lose Ted Cruz? One of the most unlikable people on earth? Because he was saying the same shit that the DCCC approved of, that the DNC approved of. He was DNC tested, mother approved. That's why. And no one was going to come out and vote for the same old shit. Their lives already suck. Why were they going to vote for the same old shit?
Yeah.
And if he came out and said, we can get out of the wars in an army state, by the way, in a military base state. We got a ton of military bases here. I'm sure a lot. Fort Bliss's families, Camp Mayberry's families, they don't want their kids to go overseas to do what? Fight for Raytheon, Exxon? Not fighting for our rights, right? If they could just stay home, do their time, get money for college, awesome, right? He wasn't saying any of that. Medicare for all. Even on his presidential campaign, he's like, this thing called Medicare for America. What the fuck does that mean? It's the same fucking bullshit that we already have. Right, but he's not saying anything specific, and that's why he's getting his ass kicked as a presidential run.
Yeah.
He's not going to get the nomination.
Beto only had one bill ever, and it was basically renaming something
No, he's had. I looked up his voting record. He's unfortunately
that he carried.
Oh, that he carried. Yeah. Okay. I mean, because he voted for banking deregulation twice.
Yeah, no, that's what he carried. So
yeah.
He doesn't really have any mission.
Right.
So if I can find people with mission
Right.
that have that star power and can just speak for themselves,
Sure.
but is also willing to be part of a team, and
Right.
it's not all about them.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
And anyone who's interested, reach out. rssimpson@protonmail.com. I would love to. I'm looking for candidates to run all over the state of Texas right now.
Well, listen, man. As we start to wrap up, is there a website or something you want to guide people to?
I do not. Right now, I'm
Okay.
working with someone on making an LLC.
Okay. And I know you guys are talking about some other secret-y kind of cool shit that you're going to probably announce later, right?
Yeah, there's something coming up in the works, which I can get the militia. I'm trying to get the militia and the Black Panthers involved in.
Okay. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Okay.
So I want a strong showing of our militant bodies that are political groups.
Are you advocating violence?
I'm not advocating violence. I'm saying we need to show a show of arms to make the government remember that we do have a Second Amendment right for a reason.
Well, it's not that I would recommend this, but I was watching some YouTube thing, and the guy was quoting out of Kissinger's memoirs, and it was during the Vietnam protests, and Nixon had gotten all the D.C. city buses to surround the White House, and the National Guard was out front of the White House. And Kissinger wrote how Nixon was afraid. They're going to come to get us, Henry. They're going to come to get us. And that is how every government official should feel.
Yes.
Was it 2 years ago? I think it was Romania, where they stormed the parliament and they threw the representatives in the trash. Like they hauled out like 40, 50 people, with their arms and legs flailing, and tossed them into dumpsters. It was just like out the back door, out the front door. Oh, here's a snack tray, trash can, just and toss them out. And people go, "Are you advocating?" Yes, I'm advocating yellow vests by summer. I mean, France had 2,000 demonstrations in this last year with like 500,000 people showing up.
I want a 1,000,000-man march with everyone armed to the teeth. I don't want some hippie peace, love, and this and that.
Well, we do it wrong here. That's my point, though. With the French, they were knocking shit over. And here we have this Occupy thing, for example, which was a good idea. But, okay, stay in your cones. And, okay, we're going to protest in our little designated space. We need to do it where you're going to knock some shit over. And I don't want to hurt anybody, but I don't mind knocking shit over. And I don't mind breaking windows. You know, and if they break my car window, fine, I got insurance. That's fine. I mean, we have to have something else. We're in the death rattles of empire. We really are.
That's the end of a civilization.
In empire, I've been saying this for 30 years. Empires end. And in the 80s when I was saying this, when I came up with this idea, and I thought it was so smart, people hated when I was saying that. What are you saying, man? You don't like America? No, I like America. But the Romans ended. The Greeks ended. The Germans ended. The Russians ended. You know, the Brits ended. Everybody ends at one point. You can't rule the world forever. And 3 years ago, we were 2 votes away from not being the reserve currency on Earth anymore because we got too much debt-to-income ratio. Doesn't that sound familiar? People that have ever applied for a home loan. And they almost went to China. And this next vote, they might just go to China because China doesn't have military bases. They got one military base outside of China. It's on the east coast of Africa, right across the street from Saudi Arabia. 1.5 billion people. They got one military base outside of China. You know what they do with their money? They reinvest. You know what they do when they help third world countries? They loan them money to build schools and shit. They don't put their army in the fucking place and create death squads. We're just a bunch of dickheads. We have a death economy. A life economy is not that hard, and it will make money because live people pay taxes and live people buy shit. If you're a capitalist at all, that should resonate. So anyway, you got final parting shot before we wrap it all up.
Just make sure you know your terms. Don't limit yourself on your view and go out there and educate yourself on what terms actually mean because it changes your perspective on what all the political conversation is.
Phenomenal. Awesome, man. Hey, listen, I need you to come back this summer. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks, and this show's going to air in a little bit, but you need to come back. And I want to know more about this other thing that you're doing, and we need to talk about that.
I can't talk about it much.
No. We're done now, but we will do an hour on this thing.
Okay.
So, folks, my guest has been Ryan Simpson, and if you've been listening, and I'm sure you have because you got to this part of the show, he is a political activist, and he's been around for a long time. Given his 25 years, I mean, he's packed more in his political life than most people do in their entire lives at my age. But that being said, we're wrapping it up. You can become a bitter pill at patreon.com/thebittertruth. And if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. Sleep tight.